Our own Nick Stepnitz. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Mayor, Council, I do apologize that we had a late cancellation for the words of inspiration. And unfortunately, it's appropriate for the proclamation on the agenda today, so maybe we could just have a brief moment of silence for what happened in Buffalo this past weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay. Mayor Milan.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Sampson.
Here.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Here.
That is a quorum, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. First thing on our agenda tonight is approval of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I need to ask that someone please make a motion to amend the agenda to address the following corrections. Under new business, item 9A, number 8, the amendment to the agenda would be for it to read at item 9A8, it should read Blair Memorial Library combined millage rates of 1.1254. And then also under new business, item B should read, the last line should read Blair Memorial Library combined millages and the department fee schedule. So, as you know, there are two millages that support the library in the agenda. I failed to reference them clearly and correctly. For absolute understanding, the budget was formulated and the resolution that is part of your packet refers to them correctly. Again, it is just a correction to the agenda only. So what you have in front of you, should you approve this amendment, are the corrected cover sheets for those two items.
Madam Mayor, so moved.
Support.
Okay, anything else?
If you want to. Well, that's a separate thing. Let's do this one
Okay,
first.
all right, I just want to make sure it's included. Okay, then anything else?
For this motion,
Yeah.
we'll
we're
do
good?
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes,
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
thank
So
you.
amended.
We've approved our agenda. Next up would be public comments for items on the agenda. If you are here this evening and you would like to address an item that is on the agenda, please come to the podium, state your name, and we will happily hear you out.
Good evening. I had a wonderful day. Thank you for asking. Donna Hughes, 476 East Baker. Agenda item 7C, trees from the Marine City Nursery. I would like to know who decides at which address each tree is planted. Some of these species listed need more space and sun than others. And you don't want to have all the same species of a tree in any given area. Think ash borer. On one side of me in the front yard, on the left side of me in the front yard is a huge silver maple. Not in the area that the city is planting, but in the front yard. It's a huge silver maple. And then there's nothing for 4 houses in the next direction. But I had a tree planted in the front of my house. That's nice, you know, it's nice to have it there. But I really had, this happened about 10 years ago. I was not given any type of prior notification, as I would have preferred to have a different species, which I found out later. We had an option to decide which species the ones that were being planted. But I called as soon as I found that out, and they said, oh, it's already been determined, all done. So we also were not given any instructions on watering. No, the city did not water the tree placed in front of my house. And as of today, there has not been any trimming of the low branches over the street. I'd also like to mention that the tree in front of my house, as planted, was and still is heavily girdled. which is not good for the growth. And I just have a concern that the plants from the Marine City Nursery are going to fail eventually. So why are we planting trees that are girdled to start with?
Thank you. We'll have someone get back with you with that information. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for items? We have you on a specific presentation proclamation time, unless you'd like to. Yes, you may. Okay, no, you're good. Is there anyone else? Okay, then we'll move on. The next item on the agenda would be consideration of approving the following consent agenda. Item A is minutes of the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, May 5th, 2022, as presented. Item B is reappointment of Eva Burns to the Blair Memorial Library Board for a term to expire July 1st, 2027. And the next item would be approving the annual tree planting program utilizing Marine City Nursery not to exceed $34,300 using Metro Act funds.
Madam Mayor, I would like to move item 7C out of the consent agenda and trying to find an appropriate place for it. New business?
Either A or last. A or G.
Why don't we address it right off the bat? So we'll do new business A.
Sure.
Support.
That's just moved. So now it'll be a motion. A motion to approve the amended consent agenda.
I'll move the consent agenda is amended.
Done. Support. Mayor Milan.
No?
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
So agenda is approved with item A being moved to new business.
Okay, next thing we have on our agenda would be presentations and proclamations. We have a presentation this evening by State Representative Padma Kupa, recognizing retired Chief of Police. Oh, I skipped one? No, I didn't.
No, that's
I heard
not
you
right.
whispering, and I was like, I know he's telling me I skipped something again.
Talking to
Okay.
Councilman Shepherd, sorry.
Presentation by State Representative Padma Kupa, recognizing retired Chief of Police Scott Sarvello. Welcome, Padma. It's been a while.
Yeah, I was here in December. We've been trying to get me on the schedule to do an update. We will get that done soon, but I didn't want to miss this opportunity. It took us a while to schedule it. In the 3.5 years that I've been serving Clawson and that I have come to know Chief Sarvello, he's one heck of a guy. You were lucky to have him, and I'm sorry to see him go. And so we have here a special tribute to Chief Scott Sarvello. I'm not going to read all of it. Much of it you probably already know. But I do want to say that it's been signed duly not only by me, but also our State Senator Mallory McMorrow, as well as Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist and Governor Whitmer. So, Scott, thank you for your years of service. When I came to Clawson to be the representative and I started meeting people, I just want to say how welcoming you were. I came out and helped with some fundraiser that you did. And he and several of the officers were so kind. When we did the 9/11 event, he sent the Police Officer of the Year, Officer Stephen Haley, to give me great company, along with Captain from the Troy Police Department. Both of them joined me. And I have yet to have you come up and join me. So the offer is open if you ever want to come spend a day with me in Lansing to see how we make the laws that you then, as a police officer, have had to enforce for so long. So I just want to say thank you for your service. Thank you to all the police who served alongside you, and thank you for what you're continuing to do in terms of keeping our community safe in your new job.
Very good. I appreciate you and this award. Thank you very much.
Can we capture the moment?
Of course.
If you stand in there and then please take up and she can be here and I'll place everyone accordingly. If you, everyone's back.
Yep.
Yeah.
You want them to stay there?
Yeah, they can, yeah, that way we get everything.
down from a
Yeah,
position of
yeah.
grace.
You guys can get closer together. There we go. There we go. No, there we go, that's good right there. That's very good right there. Okay, I'm good for you.
Perfect.
We're good?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Feel free to stay. Sir, you look nice, by the way. We'll probably be celebrating Chief Sarvello for a really long time, I'm assuming. Because everyone will want to get in on this at some point. But always great to have someone to celebrate and something to celebrate. The next item on our agenda is consideration of a proclamation declaring June 3rd, 2022 as Gun Violence Awareness Day. Whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at the age of 15. And on June 3rd, 2022, to recognize the 25th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, born June 2nd, 1997, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence and their loved ones. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Hadia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange, a color chosen because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods, and because orange symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income countries, and whereas Michigan has 1,270 gun deaths every year with a rate of 12.7 deaths per 100,000 people, which gives Michigan the 29th highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S., and whereas cities across the nation, including Clawson, are working to end the senseless violence with evidence-based solutions, and whereas mayors and law enforcement officers know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep the citizens safe. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to exacerbate gun violence after more than 2 years of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 3rd, the last Friday in June 2022, to help raise awareness about gun violence, and whereas by wearing orange on June 3rd, 2022, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of gun violence victims and survivors. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our children safe. Now therefore be it resolved that Mayor Paula Milan of the City of Clawson declares the first Friday in June, June 3rd, 2022, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support efforts to prevent the tragic events of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. We have a representative here this evening that you had wanted to speak. Why don't you please come and speak with us?
Thank you.
And we will get a proclamation to you.
Thank you very much.
Most convenient for you, we'll give it to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I had prepared some comments, and they were going to be my way to encourage you to accept the proclamation, to make it, and you just did it. So thank you very much. My name is Diana Darland, and thank you, Mayor Milan, Clawson City Council members, and Clawson residents. I feel honored to be here tonight. I live in Royal Oak, but I am honored to be here this evening on behalf of many Clawson residents who signed my letter asking that the proclamation be made. It is known as Wear Orange for gun safety and for gun violence awareness, as Mayor Milan just stated, and I appreciate your putting it on the agenda. I hope that the recent gun violence tragedies, both local and national, freshen our minds, including the Oxford High School shooting and the Buffalo, New York mass shooting, and the fact that the statistics show an ever increasing incidents of both accidental and intentional firearm injuries. In keeping that in mind, you have agreed to make the proclamation. Thank you. As a member of Moms Demand Action South Oakland County, I would like to thank you very much for your time and your consideration, and also offer to share information in the future regarding firearm safety, secure storage of firearms in our community, and how we can better educate one another about how to keep our citizens safe from accidental and intentional firearm injury. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So now we're going to move back to the item, we're going to add item A, we're going to AA, for the tree item. So this will be approving the annual tree planting program utilizing Marine City Nursery not to exceed $34,300 using Metro Act funds. As you recall, we just moved this off of our consent agenda because someone wanted to address it more fully.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we need to make a motion in order to discuss it. So I move that we approve the annual tree planting program utilizing Marine City Nursery not to exceed $34,300 using Metro Act funds.
Support.
So I think in earlier comments, I think it's important that we address this now while it's in front of us. I appreciate the comments that were made earlier regarding the program. It's vital that we maintain this and that we do it properly. One of the concerns that I had was that I'm not sure how long we've been using Marine City, but I share the concerns from the citizen earlier that perhaps we need to take a look at Marine City and their ability to provide us with the proper selections that maintain and meet and surpass our city ordinance that we passed earlier this past year. And again, we've got a number of maple species that are around here that are supposed to be in, we're supposed to have those on hold for any new plantings, at least within the city. And so those are the types of concerns that I have with that. The other item that I think is even more important to talk about is what that does. And it caught my attention when we were getting this matching grant program that the county had pointed out to us there's an item on here, Schedule 1 to Attachment A, which shows the participation eligible road miles, and then factor number 3, which caught my attention, which is imperviousness. So what that means is that those are the areas within the city that there's no possibility for rain to seep into the soil in order to help mitigate the flooding. So Clausen sits at if I read this properly, a little over 50% of impervious surfaces. So that's one of the things that I would like to try and see that we, at least obviously at this point, try to not go higher than that with some of the other developments that we have. But again, the reason is described in the project description. And I'll move forward on this. This is Attachment B, the Oak Stem 2021 Street Tree Enhancement Matching Grant Pilot Program. So what this is, it says that this is to augment an already scheduled tree planting program. The city of Clausen has been designated as Tree City USA for the past 31 years, a distinction of which we are very proud of. Oakland County data lists that the city of Clausen has 50.2% impervious cover while only having between 20 and 30% tree cover. This high impervious surface area and minimal tree cover can result in large peak storm flows during large rain events. The city of Clausen has a combined storm and sanitary sewer system. This impervious surface has contributed greatly to past flooding issues in the city of Clausen. With this tree planting program, the city of Clausen has implemented. Our goals are to increase the tree canopy through the entire city of Clausen, reduce the impervious surface area, reduce peak flow of stormwater runoff, attract and retain residents to live in the city of Clawson, improve aesthetics, and increase property values, and so on. So these are some of the benefits that participating in this program, and it's a great benefit that we were able to receive this money in order to do this. So when it comes up again at the appropriate time, I would like to at least have this on the radar that we can review it for possible alternatives to Marine City, if there are any, and the program itself on where trees are planted and so forth. And Trevor, you'd be glad to have my help if you need some. So, all right, appreciate it.
Anyone else? Roll call?
I guess I'm not fully clear. So you're saying you support the Marine City initiative, the 34,000, or you'd like to hold off on that?
No, I'm saying we're paying the money.
Okay.
Right, it's already done. What I'm saying is that in the future, when this comes up again, right? So this is an annual program that I like to make sure that we revisit it. So I think it's been in the past that we just move forward with it without much consideration. So, yeah, exactly. So, okay.
Roll call.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
We got trees.
Thank you. Great, so next on our agenda will be a public hearing for solicitation of public comments on the following items for fiscal year July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Mr. Raker, you want to tell everyone what we're doing here?
Sure. Under the summary and rationale for the request, according to Michigan State Law Act 43 of 1963, a local unit shall hold a public hearing on its proposed budget. The local unit shall give notice of the hearing by publication in a newspaper of general circulation within the local unit at least 6 days before the hearing. The notice shall include the time and place of the hearing and shall state the place where a copy of the budget is available for public inspection. The notice shall also include the following statement printed in 11-point boldface type. The property tax millage rate proposed to be levied to support the proposed budget will be a subject of this hearing. The City Council has been prepared with the necessary documentation and workshops to approve the FY 22-23 combined city budgets. A public hearing is required for the City Council before their consideration. So you have to have the public hearing before you vote on the budget.
Right, so the items on the budget are, 1, proposed general operating millage rate of 9.1515. Number 2 is a proposed rubbish collection and disposal millage rate of 1.8297. Number 3 is proposed additional garbage and rubbish collection and disposal service millage rate of 0.7212. Number 4 is combined city budgets. Number 5 is capital improvement plan. Number 6 would be additional general operating millage rate of 3.70. Number 7 is the Clawson Downtown Development Authority district millage rate for the real and personal property of 1.9027. And number 8 would be the Blair Memorial Library combined millage rates of 1.1254. I will call this public hearing to open. So if anyone would like to speak regarding our fiscal year 22-23 budget, please come up to the podium and state your concerns.
Hello, Madam Mayor, council members, staff, the residents that are watching. My name is Laura Slowinski. I live at 1059 Coolidge in Glosson. And I'm here because I actually would like to ask a question regarding the Charter Commission. And need to know if that's acceptable because it doesn't look like it's on any of the 1 through 8. It's just more general.
It would be part of the combined city budgets.
The combined. Okay, I wanted to make sure before I continued.
No, you're good.
So I have a question on page 47, and I'll tell you what that is. Page 47 on the general funds appropriations, the 103 for the Charter Commission is a budget for 20,000, and I'd like to ask how they came up with that number.
I will, if I may, Madam Mayor, I'll defer to the Finance Director.
Kelly Rao, that budget was set as the same as this current year budget. It was mentioned during one of the council workshops. We did not get any type of request from Charter Commission, so I did put the 20,000 in there as a buffer.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious because it was my understanding that the city manager was going to come to the Charter Commission and ask to talk about the budget. We talked about that with him back in March, and we haven't seen anything. So understanding that he was a little, I'm sorry, May. But understanding that he was new when he came in, what I would like to just ask for is to increase that to 30,000. And the reason for that probably was at the time that maybe what you were thinking of the 20,000 is we didn't have our attorney at that time, and we really didn't know how to put anything together. We wanted it to be more realistic. So since we haven't really talked about it as a commission, which we will be doing at our next meeting, but the numbers that we have added in from the meetings that we've had, the attorney costs that we put in there brings it up to 30,000. So I'd like that to be a consideration.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, to that point, that is something that the city administration can entertain in a future budget amendment, should it become necessary?
Can we just make a motion today to increase their budget by an additional $10,000 to give them the $30,000 that they're requesting so that they can go home in peace? Since it's going to happen anyways.
Ms. Rao, what are your thoughts on that? That'll put it out of balance for sure, because we're not going to have another $10,000 in revenue.
It would put it out of balance. The only way we would be able to do that would be to decrease cost in another department's budget or to use fund balance.
Okay, so what does it mean to use fund balance? For those of us who are not.
Means to use our rainy day fund that we're saving for a rainy day.
So where would we pull it from if you were to go do a budget amendment? Because we did kind of discuss this, and when this came up, I personally said 20 is not going to be enough because we knew their attorney fees came in, and we said we would address it later.
I would have to review the entire general fund budget. I can't just give you an answer.
Well, no, I'm not.
If it were through an amendment and not using fund balance.
Okay. So given that $10,000 is not a huge amount of money, pulling it out of fund balance would not be a huge task, nor would it be a huge disruption to our fund balance. Is that appropriate? Where would you pull it from? I think I might have just asked you this, but where would you pull it from anyways then? If we're,
I'd probably have to cut council's budget or something. No, I'm kidding.
I don't think we have a $10,000 budget.
No, you do
so-
not. I don't know. I would have to go through line by line to see
Okay.
if there's any extra, but
I mean, I believe,
I would have to go through
I
it.
trust that you will move the funds, but why, I just feel like, why should we have to move the funds, you know? I would want to give them the confidence, you know, we approved the Charter Commission, we gave them the initial $20,000 budget. We discussed this 2 weeks ago, whatever, the $20,000 is just an arbitrary number, and they need more. And it just seems like we should have put more in so that we could just not have to do this right now, but we can do this. But I just want to make sure they understand that we're going to support them, because we said we would, before we brought it to the voters, we said we would support them, and we just need to give them due diligence and, you know, show our best efforts for them.
yes,
That's all
and
I'm
next year
asking.
we'll make sure that we are in communication with Charter Commission if they are still a commission, if they're still working for the city on the charter, as far as what budget they will need next year as well. But we can do an amendment for the $10,000, additional 10.
Okay. And then what's an amendment process include?
It would just be a resolution to council to increase the budget $10,000 and whether I take it from another department or use fund balance.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions regarding this? No. Okay. Does anyone else, would anyone else in the public like to speak regarding our budget? Okay, absent, is that a, no? Okay. Absent that, I will close I will close this public hearing and, what's next? Okay, so talking with us, I would like to make a motion, you're gonna hate me, Kelly, to also increase this budget in an amount to allow for a minimum of $15 per hour wage for all of our part-time employees. And I know we discussed this briefly last meeting, and I believe other people have discussed it a little bit more at length because I heard wind of some conversations. Given that our state is at, or our nation is at about a 7.5% increase of cost for people, and we're having a difficult time garnering employees for some of our essential places. If we, the part-time employees are the ones who have face-to-face with our residents. They serve our library, our public works, our DPW out on the parks and such. And I'd like to see what we can do to take care of them and give them a little bit more competitive wage when we know they can go to McDonald's for whatever. They can go to Mission Barbecue for $17, and that's not a plug for Mission Barbecue, but if you need a $17 an hour job, she's great and she needs help.
Madam Mayor, just a point of order, where we are on, you closed the public hearing.
I did.
But we didn't start the next agenda item. If I recall correctly, there wasn't a motion at that.
Didn't I just make a motion? We're still talking about this item, right?
Are you talking during public hearing? I'm just trying to make
No,
sure.
I closed the public hearing.
Okay.
And then I
Oh, you made a
Gotcha. Motion.
Gotcha, okay, understood.
Is it appropriate? It's appropriate, right? I believe it is appropriate. Okay, thank you.
The only thing I didn't, was there a second? Because I think you're going into a conversation now, but otherwise it's appropriate.
Okay. So does anyone want to support this motion, or are we going to move on?
Motion for $15 an hour minimum wage.
Yes.
I do have a few questions. I guess I could ask Ms. Rao, what would be the cost impact to the payroll if that were done?
Maybe we have a second though before we go into the conversation.
Sure.
Just for purposes of propriety.
Yeah, would anyone second my motion so we can discuss it, or would we like to
I did
not?
not second, I was just inquiring as to the background of the, do I need to second?
Yeah,
to-
there needs to be a second in order to have an ongoing conversation.
Ideally, sir, yes.
I will second the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I did do a quick calculation, a quick and dirty calculation. So right now, it's anywhere from $85,000 to $100,000 per year.
Okay. Now, the motion as presented, I think it would just be for the part-time?
Part-time.
Part-time.
And roughly 20-some part-time employees, is that correct?
Yes.
I was, okay, I'm looking at the part, there's a matrix you put out, and it has under part-time 49, but that's everybody. So
That probably includes volunteer firefighters.
it does.
Mhm.
It's
There's
everybody.
like 26 of them, so.
So this would
We would
not,
not include the volunteer firefighters in that. They're under a different agreement, and if we pay them more than a certain percentage per state and federal rules, they would be considered employees.
okay, hold on. Actually, there's, the 49 is a separate column from the on-call
Okay,
firefighters.
so there are crossing guards, library, there's part-time and seniors,
Exactly.
parks, recreation.
Right, and their total appears to be 49.
So I think if I.
So some of those were are already making over $15 an hour.
Oh, so it impact 22 of the 49?
That is correct.
21.
Okay.
What's their salary now?
Pardon me?
What are they being paid now?
They're a range from anywhere from $10 to probably $14 an hour, depending on their position.
Your motions to pay everybody 15?
It is. Oakland County recently did this in a, good effort to just create good for their people and to capture people in. It's hard to compete with anyone, and also to just pay a fair wage. I know Clausen's strapped for a lot of things, but if we don't take care of our own, we're kind of disingenuous to ask for things from them. And I just feel like we would recoup that $86,000 back in goodwill.
And those part-time staff also work a variety of hours. So some may work 200 hours a year, some may work 500 hours a year. So depending on their position.
Okay, so I think 500 hours would be like 10 hours a week, right? So they're all less than, say, 20 hours a week at this point.
Correct.
I think, okay. So,
Well, go ahead.
yeah, I just have a few more questions. The 49 part-time, of which only 22 would be impacted. So presumably then, those would not be impacted, is about 27. And I assume they're all making at least $15 an hour currently?
The quick and dirty calculation I did, there was about 20 people that were part-time that made less than $15 an hour.
Okay, but the rest make more or equal to?
Correct.
Hate to ask you another quick.
I may not have it, but I will try to answer the best I can.
What is the general range of those who are at or above $15?
I do not have that
Okay.
information.
What would be the recommendation as a city manager?
Mayor and council, my suggestion would be that if this is the desire of the council to move in this direction, that you give the administration some time to look at this outside of this budget that's before you. If this was of such a magnitude we just talked about the Charter Commission, that we're going to do an amendment for that. We could look at this closer and potentially consider that in an amendment if that was the will of council. But at this juncture, I think that there could potentially be secondary, third-order effects from kind of arbitrarily raising this without taking into consideration the parameters in collective bargaining agreements.
You've had conversations with members of this council regarding this topic this week, have you not?
This week, yesterday I talked to Mr. Anderson.
So it's been on your radar, and you understood that it was something that was an interest, right? Let's just say an interest.
It was on my radar as of last night at about 7 o'clock.
I discussed it at our last meeting, and I understand that often what I say is not on people's radar, but I did discuss it as a precursor, and I did ask that we consider it. And I know this is a lot to rush through, Kelly. I apologize. I know you take the brunt of all of this, but it's really critically important. It's important that we represent our community well, and that we provide to them when we request that they provide well for us. And that's why this is important to me at this time. I would like to say that this budget included raises for salary increases for our staff. It included decent salary increases for many of our staff, and then a 2% increase for other members of staff. And I don't know if these part-time people were included in that. If that's the case, then we can take 2% off, whatever this number is. That's good news for math. But I think we're just not being genuine and forthright with our budgeting if we're not treating everyone with the same level of interest or respect. And I don't know how to do this easily. I know it's costly, but I personally feel that it's something that we should consider. Being the little city with the big heart and all, this should be something that we consider, taking care of our people. We have the funds. We have a decent fund balance. I'm not saying I want to use it all on staffing. We have our ARPA funds, which I understand are limited, one time only. we could use that to offset some of this for the beginning and then work towards the future. So I'm just asking for support if people want to support it. If they don't want to support it, I don't want to belabor it and beat a dead horse, but I would like it considered now and not in the future because I just kind of don't trust the future.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion to keep the same motion to work towards 15 an hour, but have the city manager look to see what impact it really has instead of doing this. It's kind of like doing it on a bar napkin. Let him review it and see what the actual costs are going to be, not somewhere between 80 and 100. We need to send it back to him and bring it up at a future meeting.
So could you please define what the parameters would be that you would support this motion?
I'm going to look at the $15 an hour and see what the impact would be on the budget.
So let's say the impact is 100,000. We'll just go for the high number. The number I have on my paper is.
I'm not going to keep guessing.
No, it's not a matter of guessing. It's a matter of if we're going to send it back and it's not going to be considered actually by our city manager, or if it's just going to be washed away, say we're going to wash it away now, because I don't want to bring false hope, and I don't like to pretend, especially when it comes to money. This budget took care of a lot of things for a lot of people, a lot of special interest things, which is what budgets do. This is equally important as all of those other things that we took care of in this budget.
Madam Mayor, your motion is commendable. I think we're all in agreement of that.
We have my motion that needs support on before we can talk.
On your motion? Oh, I mean,
On the
we're
revision.
talking, she already had her.
I already had a
it was already
motion out,
submitted.
so
It
we've
was
not
already
voted
supported.
on that.
But I made a motion to revise yours.
Okay.
So we vote on the revision, then we vote on yours.
You would need support for that
Yeah.
amendment. I don't know that I've heard support yet. Councilmember.
To continue talking, support, and the reason why I want to continue to discuss this. So, and I'll go back to what I had mentioned, that I think the motivation is to be commended. And I think this should be the aspiration of us all here. But I think we need to do it responsibly. I think at this point in time, that we need to have this budget done now. That creates there may be cascading events that happen as a result of rushing this through without proper investigation, proper analysis, that I think we need to be prudent in how we address this. So I think if we can achieve that at some point in time, that's something we need to look at. But at this point, right now, there's other risks that need to be reviewed and analyzed before we push this through at the 11th hour.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
It's on the amendment.
Voting on the amendment. So first one is Anderson. Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
No.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
So
Right, thank you.
For clarity, that amendment was to direct me, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next on our agenda would be consideration of approving the general operating millage, rubbish collection and disposal millage, additional garbage and rubbish collection and disposal millage, combined city budgets 2022 through 2027, capital improvement plan, additional operating millage, downtown development authority millage, and the Blair Library millage and the department fee schedules.
So move is requested.
Support.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
No.
That part of the budget passes.
Next item is consideration of continuing the water consumption rate of $29.32 per 1,000 cubic feet, the sewer consumption rate of $82.71 per 1,000 cubic feet, the sewer debt fixed charge of $9, and the billing charge of $14.71 per quarter for water and $21.21 for sewer, and the industrial waste control charges for non-residential users be effective July 1st, 2022.
So move is requested.
Support.
So I'd like to state that we have to approve these water charges. And I know people are wringing their fingers right now, going, what do you mean you're you're approving water rates when we're complaining about water rates and when there's supposed to be a water study? So could someone tell us when the water study is going to be taking place and how these rates compare to last, right? They're all the same as the previous year? We did not change any rates?
There's no change at this time. We're waiting on Raymond's feedback. Once we get that, we'll have an updated fee schedule for you, but I would anticipate 3% and 4% respectively between water and sewer.
3% and 4% decrease?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you might want to be clear with that, because people are going to have their hopes up out there, because they are hoping for a decrease. Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes,
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
great, we've approved our water rates as is. Next item is consideration of approving the monthly rental rates for Renshaw Apartments effective July 1st, 2022. So,
No move is requested.
Support.
okay, on March 15th, 2022, is this right? No, that's not the right one, sorry. So the impact of the apartment complexes, the city owns and manages a 15-unit apartment complex that consists of 14 single-bedroom apartments and 1 efficiency. The current rates are $470 per month for each of the single-bedroom apartments and $440 for the efficiency. The last time the rental rates for Renshaw were increased was 2018-19 fiscal year. Up until the 2019 fiscal year, the rates were raised $10 per month. Since the rates have not been increased for 4 years, it is recommended to raise them to $500 for the 14 single-bedroom apartments and $470 for the single efficiency. The recommended rental rate indicates an increase of approximately 6.5%. Is anyone here that would like to speak on this?
Nick, if you would like to elaborate, please.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Council, so as you could tell from that we have not raised the rates at the senior apartment for about 4 years. And generally in the last 4 years, based on my research in Michigan, rental rates have gone up from anywhere to 10 to 20%, and we have not adjusted our rates accordingly. And so with this increase at Renshaw, it would just raise them 6.5% to kind of offset some of the costs associated with operating the senior apartment.
So 6.5% for us, but 6.5% for them, and their income, low income, their income based, whatever, low income apartments. So 6.5% might seem like nothing, but to these residents, it might seem like a lot. So wondering why we didn't go a little bit more incremental and along with what we've done in the past. I understand they haven't had an increase in the past few years, but this timing right now is really tough for a lot of people.
Right, and I understand that, and I, again, did research, and, at their age, they are, most of them are on Social Security or have some type of retirement, and I know Social Security got a pretty big increase this year too, I believe. Based on, there was a report that I read, and so I think this increase is not substantial enough in nature. We're not going up on that 20% like every other rental unit has in the area.
But this isn't like every other unit, right? Because it's income, it's lower income based. So a 6.5% increase, or in a regular apartment, you expect it. You're getting gouged every year. We know that. But these people are living here and expecting more humanity, I think, and less of a hit all at once.
Correct. So I may defer to Rennis a little bit on this one, but the senior housing is not necessarily dedicated as low income.
Right.
It's senior housing specifically, and there isn't really anything that indicates what your, income level is not associated for them right now, but where they're at financially is not considered. So if you could add to that.
Thank you, Nick. Obviously, I agree, Nick did the research, and thank you for it. The percentage of increase obviously belongs to council. So council may make a determination that is not necessarily based on sort of the logic of the rental market per se, but it could be something based on, what our values are as a community. And if something more incremental makes sense to council, absolutely, I think that's appropriate. So you can just modify that percentage increase, or at least do it in gradual terms. I think the thinking, that we all agreed with is that something needs to be amended going forward so that we can take into account some of these added expenses and costs that we incur as a city. But obviously, again, the percentage remains with council.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to add that was just at Renshaw probably last week with our maintenance over there, and there are some substantial capital improvements that need to be made if we continue wanting to provide necessary services. We've had a couple of furnaces go out, and those cost anywhere from $5,000 depending on when we can get those in, and the siding is also starting to need some adjustments as well, and so by raising the rents, we are hopefully going to be able to make some of those updates to the facility.
Well, realistically, the rent costs that you're at this rate, you're not going to buy a HVAC unit, right? Like, they're nominal as far as our income is concerned, right? We're not reaping great reward even with this this rate that you're requesting, but it might be a hardship on them. That's my concern, is that it's a substantial request for them, but not a substantial gain for us to justify it. And I understand there's a lot of concerns about this property, it's definitely not a market-driven property. We've never treated it as such. If that's the plan moving forward, then that should be a conversation that would be had at another time. But I would like to make a motion that we go half on the increase this year, and then maybe make a plan to do every year going forward.
I would suggest, since we have a motion and a second, vote on it, and if it fails, just make that motion next.
All right. Anyone else?
So the motion on the floor right now is for the 6.5% increase.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Anderson.
No.
Mayor Milan.
No.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
No.
It fails.
Okay. Would anyone else like to make a motion, or what? Shall I make the next motion?
I'd like to continue talking about it. I agree.
You got to have a motion on the floor to talk about it.
Sorry. Caught me again.
These rules, you know.
I have to stick those
Technically.
I'm going to make this motion. I'll make a motion that we direct staff to review the increase in rates and provide a long-term plan on rate increments for the next 10 years.
I'll support that.
Okay, so again, I think we're coming up with numbers that, at this point, I think it needs to be further investigated and come back and see what we can come up with that that I think we can all agree to. Trying to do quick math here, I commend the idea and support for people living here. I just want to make sure that we do it the right way.
So, devil's advocate position, administration's already done this, and this is what they came up with. What's your goal, that they're going to come up with something different?
I'd like to see them, if we do need repairs, tell us what we need.
We can develop a
We got
more
the motion.
in-depth.
Put a package together and say,
Yeah, sure, we can monetize those prospective improvements on the horizon and develop a more palatable percentage fee increase over time. And I can, we'll get that to you, give us 60 days.
That's fine. Yeah, again, just if there's those improvements, what are they? What are they? What's that cost? How does that increase? And show what that value may be. And again, for $500, that's I think that was even cheap 25 years ago. So, putting that in perspective.
Just want to make a quick statement. We do have $50,000 in the budget for improvements. It's a carryover from last year. I believe there was some lobby work, some roofing work that was to be completed that was never completed last year.
And that's in the budget?
Yes.
Okay, that's included in the $50,000.
Let's give us a big package and tell us.
Well, I can give you greater detail
Right.
in a way forward.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
60 days.
Okay, thank you for that. Next item would be consideration of approving the proposal from Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick to provide design and construction engineering services for the Selfridge and Phillips pavement reconstruction project.
So moved as requested.
Support.
He's bringing an easel, so it's
We
going to
get
be
to talk to
fancy.
Trevor.
Yeah. Old school presentation.
My reading glasses are only so strong.
You gonna move?
Where they're setting up, I want to thank the city manager for, how long you been here now? 7 weeks?
8.
8 weeks, and you already got a project going. That's commendable.
I appreciate that. We've got great staff that pulled it all together, from our partnership with AEW to DPW to finance to Nick. It was a team effort.
We've been telling the city we're going to fix the roads, and finally you showed up, and we're starting that way.
You forgot to say Trevor.
I said DPW.
Trevor likes his name to be said out loud.
All right, Madam Mayor, Council, I'm Mike Smith with Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick, and I'm here tonight to present our proposal for the design and construction engineering services for the Selfridge and Phillips reconstruction project. Thank you, Nick, for putting those up on the screen. What Nick has done is put a map up on the screen that we created that kind of shows the limits of the project, and as well as the existing water main and sewers along that stretch of road. So for the limits of the project, on Phillips, we're going from Kinross all the way to North Chocolate, just a little bit beyond to catch some bad pavement. And then on Selfridge there, we're going from Chocolate up north of that funky intersection there. So in our services, our design engineering service includes topographical survey, the design, construction plans, specifications, and putting this all out for public bid. Based on our contract with the city and our preliminary cost estimate of $680,305 for this project, our design engineering fee would be a total of $44,220. Our construction engineering service would include construction staking, construction observation or inspection, that's full-time inspection during the entire project, and the contract administration, which is pay estimates, contract mods, progress meetings in the field, and such. And our estimated cost for that service is $102.46. That's for budgetary purposes, we put a 15% rate on top of the estimated construction cost. In addition to these, there would be geotechnical engineering services needed. During the design phase, we would have a geotech consultant come out and do some borings of the pavement to determine how thick the pavement is, what's there, what's underneath, how bad the soils are underneath the pavement, and give us a recommendation of what type of section would have to go there based on those soils. During the construction of the project, we would also have a geotech on site to do material testing. When we peel off the old pavement and we dig down, they would be there and present to observe a proof roll of the subgrade to make sure the subgrade's stable, to be able to put the new aggregate base on top. Once that aggregate base is on top and it gets rolled, the geotech would do a density test on that, approve that, and then when the concrete's placed, they would test the concrete to make sure it meets spec.
How often do you core the road?
How often do we core it?
Yeah.
I contacted our consultant and asked for 4 cores on this project. Typically, like if I have a project that's like a mile long, I would do them like every 450 feet or so and try to stagger them. In this case, we've got, different segments along Phillips and then that intersection there at Phillips and Selfridge. So the way I've got it set up right now with the geotech, if this gets approved tonight, I would do 3 borings on Phillips and then 1 on Selfridge, and that would give us a pretty good idea of what type of soils we have in that area.
So where, again, are they marked here? I'm sorry, where the borings are?
Have they done that
No,
yet?
were you marking where they would be on Phillips, or?
I will. If this gets approved tonight, I will
Okay.
be in touch with my geotech consultant, and
Okay.
I will authorize them to begin that work.
Does elevation change have anything to do with where you would take the bore samples?
Not really.
I mean, we're not San Francisco, but there is.
No, you're relatively flat.
Yeah, I mean, that section there is a decline of some significance.
Right. No, what I'll want them to do is they'll probably take 1 or 2 cores in the really bad areas that are all, cold patch and everything to see what's underneath those areas and give us an idea of what's causing that. And then the other 2 cores will probably be in somewhat solid pavement, or if there is any there.
And again, how deep would those cores go?
5 feet.
5 feet? Do you do anything further than that, or depending on what you find?
If I were doing a water main project, I would have them do 15 feet.
Okay.
Well, what do we do with the water mains in this area?
Excuse me?
What are we doing with the water mains?
Currently, we're not planning to do anything. Based on my conversations with the DPW, they haven't had a large break history with this water main, so we're leaving it as is. And in the future, if we do have to do something, you'll notice on the south side of Phillips there, it's already in the green belt. Typically, it's been a while since we've done a water main project in Clawson, but typically we'll put that water main under the sidewalk. So we still have room to move that water main over and keep it out from under the road. There's going to be a couple road crossings there at the intersections, and you may have to take out a panel or 2. We may be able to work around that with directional drill installation. It just depends on what type of pipe we use. And then also during the design, the DPW is going to take their CCTV equipment out there and televise that sewer and see if there's any repairs needed to that sewer. And while we have it opened up, we might as well do it. So I guess to finish off on my proposal here, what I'm asking council here is to approve my design and construction engineering costs. I know on the second sheet of my proposal, I gave like a summary of all the costs and what the estimated total of the entire project would look like. But for my fees, including the geotechnical fees, so for design, with my fees and the geotech, the design work would be $47,720. For the construction engineering phase with our fees and the geotechnical services, that would be $112,251. If there's any other questions, feel free.
So you talked about where the water main crosses and also where the sewer crosses.
Yes.
That area on, I don't even know what street to call it, the curve between Selfridge and Phillips, where both the sewer and the water main cross.
Yes.
So anything that needs to be addressed specifically for that section? Because I'm familiar with that's really, really bad.
Yeah, if we're not replacing the water main now, definitely not replacing the sewer. But DPW will televise the sewer, and if there's something we can do inside it. We might be able to, if there's a broken piece inside there, we may be able to line it. We've done a lot of that in the city in the past through the SRF loan that the city's currently paying on. But for the water main, unless we're replacing that right now, there's really not much there. One of the bores that I have proposed for my geotech is close to that intersection.
Yeah.
So that'll give me an idea of what kind of soils we have there, if they're wet. You know, I'm assuming it's all clay. It's mostly clay in this area in
Yeah.
Velocity.
Some of the high points may be more sand, since it was lakeshore at one point, right? But, yeah, and because that's, as you decline, most of the topography in this area always declines towards the lakes, because that's where they used to be.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why we have clay, because they, silt deposit, right?
And another thing staff has asked me to look at during design, and I don't really know exactly what I'm gonna do yet, but is to look at that intersection there and to see if there's some kind of realignment that we can do to make it safer. Because I think in the past there has been some complaints about how traffic moves in and out of that island there. So we'll take a look at that and come up with a concept or so and run it by police and fire.
I know this is the shot in the dark, but that island, it has a sewer right underneath it.
Yep.
Is there any possibility to look at for a rain basin of some type?
That's possible. Yeah, that's something that could be looked into. We'd have to see how much water we could bring to it from the roads. Obviously, it'd take, you gotta install more sewer to bring it there,
Yeah.
but that is a consideration we could look into.
Okay.
Okay, so just so I can get confirmation, you're saying that along Phillips, the water main is in the green belt?
Yes.
So, in other words, it's about a 100-year-old main, based on your
Yeah.
report that you put out a few years back.
1928.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so with that, we can come back and do that later without disturbing this rebuilt road.
Correct.
Okay. Now, as far as Selfridge is concerned, they're a little newer, from the 1950s.
I think in the 60s.
So, okay. So, not so old, but old enough. Those are located under the road that you're changing, right?
90% of it is not.
Yeah, you're talking Selfridge itself going north?
Yeah.
To the north, that's mainly in the green belt there.
Okay. So if you can zoom into where it's not under the green belt.
Yeah, at the intersection. Yeah, at the intersection.
right there.
That piece of main that's under the intersection there is actually from the 1920s.
Okay.
Where that bend is and it starts going north, then it changes to the 60s. And that piece going north is ductile iron.
Okay. So I see you've got a little stretch there on the, we'll call it the far left, where it meets, when it intersects the Selfridge main. That length is old, and if it goes bad, let it go through the road to get at it?
The water main
Yeah.
on the left side,
Yeah. I'm sorry, the sewer main, excuse me.
oh, sorry. The sewer itself, well, in order for that to happen, there would have to be a collapse for it to really impact the road.
Okay.
But if they televise it during our design and they see something that we can address from inside the pipe now, we'll take care of that.
Okay.
So we can do full-length liners, that's from manhole to manhole. We can do sectional liners if there's just a spot repair. Those are different types of fixes we can do inside the sewer.
How thick are the liners?
Anywhere up to 3/4 of an inch or so.
Okay, so the cross-section of the sewer.
Changes a little bit, but it's
It's a
still.
minor impact,
Yeah.
sounds like.
The city's got many liners within the system.
Okay. I'm just curious, can you add a second liner as time goes by? Not that you'd want to, but how does that work?
Usually the liner will outlast the host pipe.
What's it
So,
made of?
Polyurethane, so it's pretty strong material.
Okay.
The lifespan of it, like I said, outlasts the pipe itself.
Okay.
How about traffic on Darby Court, once you get in that project? It's a one-way in, that's why I ask. Everyone else has two ways in and out.
Yeah, when we get to that, the side streets there will have to be we'll have to do half at a time because we got to maintain access.
Right.
We can't shut you down.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if you had another way out, then we may consider that, but
Yep, there's no other way out.
no way out, so we got to do half at a time.
Any other questions?
For the overall cost, I think you put in about $65,000 for unanticipated
For contingencies, yes.
contingencies, yes.
Yep, I usually put in a 10%.
Okay, so this is all based upon recent quotes to do the work?
This was based upon estimates we did in February for the CIP with the Planning Commission.
Okay, so they're pretty recent
They're
there.
pretty recent.
Okay.
Scheduling on the project, I anticipate if this were awarded tonight, I would anticipate bidding this out in July and bringing this to you probably the first meeting in August for award of a contract with a contractor. And then by the time the books are executed, the contractor gets his bonds and everything, probably starting construction after Labor Day. But this isn't a very big project, and it could be done before the snow flies.
Will there be contractors available at that time?
That's to be seen. The later you get in the season, it gets difficult. You know, it depends if they're fully booked, or sometimes you get lucky and someone has an opening.
Oh, they're all tied up on I-75 right now, or?
Yeah, we'll be working with the city to advertise it, and I'll be making phone calls to contractors I work in other communities to make sure they're bidding on it, or at least looking at it.
You
Do you have
said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you have a standard for bidders? Do they have to have a certain rating, you know, like an approval rating or something? Because we know they're not all equal.
Usually I ask 10 years' experience of similar work, and I ask them to provide their references. You know, we check them. You know, my company does a lot of work in many communities in southeast Michigan, so we usually have heard most of these guys. And I can ask around the office if they've had experience with them, if I haven't worked with them myself.
Good to know.
So because the bids are still going out, we really don't know what that construction cost is gonna be. You made your estimate in February, but
Right.
are you comfortable with your estimate at this point? And with inflation, labor shortages and all that's
It's possible
in
it
play?
could be a little higher. It's possible. I've seen a couple bids go a little high on some other projects, but I also talking to, you know, like my competitors, other consulting firms, they're seeing the same thing.
And material shortage, is there any expectation at that point that there may be?
For just a road project, I haven't really seen that. I've seen it for water main work. In another community, we awarded a contract for water main and a road, and the contractor can't get ductile iron until August. So we're looking at alternates to move that along.
So you anticipate starting by Labor Day, is that
Right after Labor Day, yeah.
right after? And
Yeah.
you said you'll be done before the snow flies. In Michigan, that's a real random event, so
Yeah.
what would be your
Typic-
estimated time in weeks?
Typically, I'd like to be done
August?
by no later than mid-November.
Okay.
The sooner the better. But, you know, hopefully if he could get his books prepared quicker in August, then maybe he could start sooner.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes. So exciting. We look forward to getting this going. Next on the agenda will be consideration of the second reading and adoption of the proposed amendment to the City of Clawson Code of Ordinances, Chapter 36.9, non-residential sign regulations.
So moved as requested.
Support.
So if everyone remembers, this was on the agenda during the last meeting.
May I address briefly?
But I
I'm
have a
sorry.
question for you.
Yes.
First, there was concern that this didn't go to planning,
Yep.
that it came to council, so I just want to make sure that you address that.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. I received an email communication, and I spoke with Mr. Cosera, through email, and I'll address council. So Mr. Tangeri, and of course, both Mr. Tangeri and I were missing at the last meeting, so that was part of the issue, I think. We weren't able to explain. We both relied on each other to be able to explain. Mr. Tangeri reached out to me and indicated that with respect to Section 36.9, he had noticed a brief anomaly, and then we both looked at it and we tried to comprehend. If you look at the first sentence in Section 36.9, we're only asking council to change two words, which is, they're in parentheses, North Selfridge. The way the sentence reads currently is, signs permitted along Rochester Road, and then parentheses, outside the multiple family residential area, end of parentheses, Main Street, new parentheses, north of Leroy and south of Nakota, end of parentheses, and West 14 Mile Road, new parentheses, between Girard and Manitou, end of parentheses, Maple, and then parentheses, west of Selfridge, and then finally the relevant area, and Crooks Road, and then in parentheses there it says North Selfridge. And then separate parentheses says see master plan. Mr. Tangeri, in reviewing applications, he had come across this, and he was, his indication to me was, as I look at it, it doesn't speak as north of Selfridge, which may be the intent of the original drafters. We don't see the intent of the original drafters. It just says North Selfridge, and it just adds confusion. Because it adds confusion, his analysis and my analysis was, well, we need to remove the confusion. And then perhaps down the road, it can be, if the planning commission, if Mr. Tangeri deems it appropriate, he can take it to the planning commission to be able, for them to be able to address, if they want to make a differentiation with respect to certain areas of Crooks Road, looking north versus south, as far as non-residential sign regulations are concerned. As it stands, what we're asking, the reason we came to council, we believe that by removing North Selfridge, that parenthesis, you're neither adding away from the standard nor adding to the standard. You're not making a change. You're just, you're just removing the confusion. And that's why it came to council as opposed to the planning commission, because we're not altering the standard, the current standard by which we review. It's just, again, we're making, taking away just that confusion. And that's the reason, and obviously Mr. Cosera, being ever the watchful monitor of the rights of the planning commission, was very gracious in reaching out to me, and I think I articulated the same step. That said, we're asking council to adopt this change, to pass the second reading, and what I will ask Mr. Tangeri and Giffords Webster is to bring the non-residential sign regulations to the planning commission so that they may have another review of it, and if they wish to articulate a certain standard that is different between on Crooks Road, north versus south, whatever they may be, they can do so and then have a proper amendment that then would work its way through the planning commission and then up to council. But for purposes of this and the second reading, I would ask you to adopt it so that going forward, up until we have the review, we have some clarity with respect to this.
So what is a standard of review that would go to planning automatically and not be a decision that would be made by our planner and our city attorney? Because I think that was part of the question.
Yeah,
Part of the concern was our planner works for us under our direction, and you also work for us under our direction. Of course, you're both looking out for our best interests. We always hope, right? And so the concern would be, what's the difference? What's the difference of when it's your call or when it's someone else's call?
Well,
Planning
it's
commission.
never our call. That's the good news. We're simply looking at a particular confusing two words here. We're not altering and what we're talking about is whether you should have gone to the planning commission first or whether it's simply a change that council could do. It would never be something that I and or Joe Tangeri or the city attorney and the planners of the city would be able to make a change. We're asking you to make the change. We're asking you to make that change. And the reason we're asking you to make the change is because we're not altering the standard for the signs on this particular road as far as we can tell. That North Selfridge doesn't make a distinction. Somebody looking, so an attorney representing a client, I can speak from that perspective, and maybe that helps. As an outside attorney representing a client wishing to put a sign, whether, somewhere on Crooks Road, whether I'm north of Selfridge or south of Selfridge, anywhere on Crooks Road in the city of Clawson, I would look at that North Selfridge there, and I would simply use it to my benefit. I would argue to my benefit and to the detriment of the city, whatever that may be, on account of the confusion that North Selfridge parenthesis offers, right? It doesn't clearly delineate what we can or cannot do as somebody just applying for a sign. The articulation of the standard going, at any time will go through the Planning Commission if they wish to change, if they wish to adopt something different, whatever it may be. But this one being just simply, a scrivener's error in our, as far as we can tell as professionals, it would go to you, to council, to make the determination.
So what brought it to your attention in the first place?
Joe Tangari.
Why did it come to his attention? That's my.
Oh, I couldn't tell you.
He's a hawk when
Just
it
sitting
comes to
home
ordinances.
reading our stuff and it's like, oh, wait,
knowing
this is
Joe,
wrong.
he probably was actually, but I can speak to that. But yes, he probably was. But I'm afraid I don't know the answer.
Well, I would just assume there was a point of reference, and that's why
presume
it came
so.
up. And my intent was not to say that you or our planners would make a decision on the behalf of
No, I
this
didn't take
body
it as such.
or the planning body, but you did take it upon yourselves to determine where it went, and that's
Correct.
what I wanted to understand.
Absolutely.
Why you determined where it went. That's all.
Absolutely. No, I didn't take it as anything else other than that you asking that simple question, and that's what I was trying to answer. And I thought, again, well, just that.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
All right. Councilmember Shepherd.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Mayor Milan.
Yes.
Councilmember Sampson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Published accordingly.
We're moving. Next item on the agenda will be old and unfinished business. Does anyone have any old and/or unfinished business? That's an exceptional answer. So then we'll move on to number 11, which is public comments for items not on the agenda. If you're here and you'd like to speak for items not on the agenda, please come forward, state your name and your street.
Susan Moffett, Drion. To talk about the item not on the agenda, the item that Mayor Milan brought up, raising the minimum wage in Clawson to $15 an hour. It was a great opportunity to do something good for the community. Instead, you had the audacity to say that you needed more information from the three of you who last council meeting passed something that no one knew what it was about, what it was for, why it was on the agenda, because Rennis put it on the agenda. Now you had the opportunity to do something good, and you all decided to pass on it because Mayor Milan suggested it. The city manager had the opportunity to be a leader on this issue. Instead, he decided to have a backroom conversation with a council member. He could have had, knowing that it was coming up and that it was an important issue, had all day to prepare for it, and instead he decided to play politics. We have had enough of game playing and politics from this council. We need a leader. We don't need any more games. Clawson deserves better.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak?
On a different topic, I would like to know if there are space requirement specifications for the outdoor eating areas of our downtown restaurants. If so, is that space physically checked annually? Railings, chairs, and tables are removed in the winter and when replaced in the spring may find themselves in a slightly different location. This week, I noted that there is only one establishment that I could see whose spatial designation is much closer to the curb than all of the other establishments. As I walked that space, I didn't feel there was enough room for two pedestrians to pass by each other without stepping off the curb and into the street. Just a thought.
Thank you very much. Could someone else please follow up with her regarding those space requirements, please? Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Also good answer. Next item on our agenda will be our city attorney's report.
Nothing for this evening, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. The next item will be our city manager's report.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, I have a lot of thank yous to issue, going all the way from all of our department heads, especially Kelly Rao, Finance Director, for all our hard work, to our Planning Commission, Planning Commissioner Chairman Casera. We've had some growing pains taking on the CIP, incorporating that. But overall, I think I know I'm very proud about this budget and what has been accomplished in a short time with this staff. It's been a bit of a crucible. Hopefully, it's a team building exercise for us. And next year, definitely, this process will be much more refined and better planned out and more inclusive. And Council, thank you for your support.
I have a question for you. We did not have on our agenda a list of bills. Could you please, we received a notification. Why? Would you please explain it to everyone should
Sure.
someone question
So
that?
with the turnover in the clerk's office, not the clerk's office, with the treasurer's office, there was a need to get her signature transferred and certain things that needed to happen in order to cut checks, unfortunately, weren't effectuated in a timely fashion. To the best of my knowledge, our vendors know that they will be getting paid. These issues have been rectified. They just weren't done in a timely fashion, so that checks will be cut and be on your agenda today.
Okay. Thank you. City council comments. Councilmember Shepherd.
None. I'm good.
Okay. Councilmember Sampson.
None.
Councilmember Anderson. I was trying to, I'm like, another S word? No more S words. So I would like to remind everyone that there is a Blair Bazaar on Sunday from 10 to 2 at the library. There will be plants, food, craft items, and if you go, a good time will be had by all. And then there's also our Saturday Summer Park Market starts up, and the hours there at the Clawson City Park will be 9 to 1. There will be 2 farmers there this week, and then also music by Maggie McCabe, Michigan vegetables and herb plants, and maybe a craft for the kids or something. I don't know, something outstanding that you'll love. And it's supposed to be good weather, so go enjoy, support both events. Go to one and then go to the other, so plan enough time. There's a fundraiser on the 27th to support the Clawson Police Youth, what do you call it, when they give scholarship fund? Thank you. That will be taking place, yep. So that's at the Knights of Columbus from, I don't see the time. Whatever, it's at the Knights of Columbus, sometime in the afternoon, late afternoon, early evening. So go do that, support them. And then I think that's it for that. But I would like to thank everyone for all of their work on the budget, of course. I would like to thank all the residents for supporting this community, as always. I would like to also say to residents, I've heard a couple of concerns. I've heard several at this point. The first couple I just didn't really take as much, but I can not speak for anyone up here except for myself. I will say I was elected by residents. I know not all of you, but I was elected by residents to serve this community. I proudly serve this community. I am available for any conversation, for anything. When you get directed by members of this staff to keep me out of items, please remember that. Remember that my goal is to be able to assist you. I promise I will never usurp power from anyone in our administration. I have a job. I don't want to do anyone else's job, but I do want to ensure that you're represented. And if you feel that you're not being aptly represented, please give me a call because I would like to help you with that. And other than that, I have nothing else, and I will call for a motion to dismiss.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Milan,
Yes.
Sampson,
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
We are adjourned, Madam Mayor.
Oh, I have one more question. Sorry, I know we're all still here, so my question is, will there be Memorial Day events?
The answer is yes.
Do you know what they are? Because we won't meet again to discuss it. So is there anything you can just throw out there so people can reference?
Tentatively, around 10 o'clock, there will be a flag raising ceremony and then lowering back to half-mast with the Cub Scouts and Fire Chief Troy Engel. And then We also tentatively, I'm hoping to have a flyover to start off the event. That is tentative, yet to be confirmed, hopefully tomorrow. And then also, hopefully, we will also have, I'm trying to work with the local veteran service organizations, which is VFW, AMVETS, American Legion, to potentially get a rifle volley team. However, it's a very high demand for this event and for events on this day. So that is pending. And then also potentially a flag folding ceremony as well, where a flag would be folded and then presented on behalf of the sons and daughters, the fallen sons and daughters of Clausen. So,
Okay, and that's at 10 o'clock at the gazebo or at the?
correct.
Okay, thank you for that. I almost forgot that. So, okay, now you're just, be free, everyone.